One morning, you step into your usual coffee shop. Today, you're dressed more neatly than usual, perhaps because you have an important meeting ahead. As you walk past the tables, you notice a few glances directed at you. A thought crosses your mind. Are they judging me? Maybe they think you're professional and successful. Or perhaps they couldn't care less. But what's more important is, why do you care about this? We spend too much of our lives worrying about how others perceive us. From small things like how we dress or speak to bigger issues like work, achievements, and relationships, we always want to prove ourselves in some way. Sometimes we try to gain respect. Other times we want to show that we're capable, deserving, or simply not to be looked down upon. But then, what happens? When we receive recognition, do we feel satisfied? Or is it just a temporary addiction leading us to continue seeking more validation? Proving oneself isn't always bad. It can be a motivation to push ourselves to overcome our limits. But if we don't understand its true nature, proving ourselves can become a trap. When we live for external validation, we unintentionally put our lives in the hands of others. When they praise us, we feel happy. When they judge us, we feel insecure. When they acknowledge us, we feel valuable. When they are indifferent, we feel empty. If we let others decide our worth, we'll always chase after standards we can't control. The biggest problem with proving oneself is that there is no stopping point. When a person achieves something, they want to prove themselves at an even higher level. Someone with a good job wants to show that they're not only skilled, but also wealthy. A wealthy person wants to show that they are happy and living a dream life. Social media amplifies this, where everyone can boast, compare, and seek validation. But is anyone truly satisfied? We get caught up in an endless race and forget the most important thing. Who are we doing this for? If we truly enjoy something, we don't need anyone's approval. If we truly believe in our value, we don't need to prove it. The most confident people aren't the loudest ones. They are the calmest, because they are no longer bound by others' judgment. The question is, how do we break free from this cycle? First, we need to understand that the need for recognition isn't a personal flaw. It's a part of human instinct. We are born with a desire to be accepted, to belong to a group. This used to be crucial in history, when being rejected by the community meant losing protection, even risking our lives. But in modern society, recognition is no longer a matter of survival. It's just one element of life, and we can fully control it instead of letting it control us. To do that, we need to change our perspective on our self-worth. Our value doesn't come from what others think of us, but from within. It doesn't depend on praise or attention. A person who does quiet but dedicated work is no less valuable than someone who is celebrated by the world. A simple yet meaningful life is just as valuable as a glamorous but empty one. If we define our worth based on how the world sees us, we will always feel insecure because we can't control the world. Not proving ourselves doesn't mean we stop trying. On the contrary, it helps us focus on what truly matters. When we no longer worry about what others think, we can do what we love more freely. When we're no longer pressured to be better than someone else, we can grow in the most natural way. When we're no longer afraid of judgment, we can act more boldly. Truly successful people aren't the ones trying to prove something, but the ones doing things for themselves. This book doesn't advise you to give up ambition or stop striving. It doesn't tell you to settle for less than you deserve. Instead, it helps you realize that your worth doesn't come from how others perceive you. It comes from who you are, from what you believe in, and how you live each day. You don't need to prove yourself. You just need to be true to yourself. When you do that, you'll feel lighter, freer, and stronger than ever. Part 1. The trap of proving yourself. A man walks into a store to buy an expensive watch. He doesn't really need it, but he believes it will make him look more successful. When he wears the watch, he feels more confident, hoping others will see him with admiration. But a week later, that feeling fades. He feels insecure again and starts thinking about buying something else to maintain that sense. This is the trap of proving yourself. We often confuse real value with external recognition. When we were young, we did everything to be praised. Good grades, obedience, athleticism. As we grow older, we continue seeking recognition by achieving things that society values. good jobs, attractive appearances, outstanding accomplishments. But the problem is, no matter how much we achieve, the feeling of enough never comes. If our self-worth depends on others' perceptions, we will never feel truly satisfied. Many people believe that proving themselves is the way to success. But how many successful people still feel empty? The more we try to prove we are good, the more we become obsessed with the fear of failure. The more we try to please others, the more we lose ourselves. This creates a tiring loop. We dive into work, striving to achieve something, only to realize that it doesn't bring lasting fulfillment. Instead of enjoying the journey, we care only about how others evaluate the outcome. Another problem with proving oneself is that it makes us constantly compare. We don't just want success, we want to be more successful than others. We don't just want happiness, we want a life worth admiring. This comparison makes us always feel lacking, always feeling like we're not good enough. When we see others having something we don't have, we feel compelled to get it, even if it has nothing to do with our true happiness. This trap is not only about material things, but also about how we present ourselves. A person may work relentlessly just to be recognized as hardworking. Someone may constantly boast just to prove they are important. A person may force themselves to live a life that doesn't suit them, simply out of fear of being judged. But by living this way, we no longer live for ourselves. We are just reacting to others' expectations. Upon reflection, we will realize that external recognition doesn't truly hold long-term value. Today we are praised, tomorrow we may be criticized. Today we stand out, tomorrow we might fade into the background. If we place our self-worth in unstable things like that, our mindset will always be unstable. A truly confident person doesn't need to prove anything because they know that their worth doesn't depend on others' praise or gazes. So, how do we escape this trap? First, we need to recognize that seeking recognition is natural. Everyone wants to be respected and seen as valuable. But what's important is that we shouldn't let it dominate our entire lives. When doing something, ask yourself, am I doing this because I enjoy it, because it feels meaningful, or just because I want others to recognize me? If the answer is for others, then perhaps we're headed in the wrong direction. Next, we need to change our perspective on success. True success isn't about what we can flaunt. It's about the peace and contentment we feel with our lives. A person with nothing to prove is the strongest. When we no longer need to show off, we can focus on what truly matters. When we're no longer worried about others' gazes, we can make decisions aligned with our values. Finally, focus on the journey rather than the destination. People who constantly seek recognition usually care only about the end goal, while those who are truly confident enjoy every step of the way. When we're no longer obsessed with achieving something to prove ourselves, we work more effectively, creatively, and most importantly, we are happier. Escaping the trap of proving yourself doesn't mean giving up ambition or stopping. It means walking your own path instead of chasing others' standards. When we are no longer stuck in the need to show off, we will find life lighter, freer, and more meaningful. Part 2. Letting go of comparison pressure. One day you're scrolling through social media and see a friend who just bought a new car. It's luxurious, shiny, and he seems to be very happy. You look at your old car and suddenly feel like it's inferior. You were satisfied with it before, but not now. You ask yourself, am I falling behind? Do I need to try harder to keep up with my friends? This feeling is not unfamiliar. Comparison is a part of our lives. From a young age, we were taught to look at others to know where we stand. Are our grades higher than those of our classmates? Is our job as good as our colleagues? Is our life as happy as those around us? Comparison motivates us to move forward, but it can also become a source of insecurity. The problem with comparison is that it never ends. There's always someone wealthier, more talented, or happier. If we base our happiness on others, we will never feel enough. A person with a good job will compare their income to that of someone richer. A person with a happy family will look at others and wonder if their life is as perfect as theirs. No matter what you achieve, there's always someone doing better. Additionally, comparison often doesn't reflect reality. What we see is just the surface. A beautiful travel photo doesn't tell us if the person in the photo is truly happy. Someone who appears successful may be facing pressures we don't know about. When we compare, we often use someone's best side to contrast with our own weaknesses, which makes us feel inferior. But if we look at it objectively, we'll realize no one is perfect. Everyone has their own problems. We just don't see them. Furthermore, comparison can make us go off course. When we focus too much on outperforming others, we forget what really matters to us. A person may dive into making money just to prove they are successful, only to realize they don't really enjoy that life. Someone may choose a job because it gives them a better status, but they don't truly love it. When we chase other people's standards, we lose ourselves. So, how do we let go of the comparison pressure? First, we need to understand that comparison is meaningless without a clear purpose. If comparison only makes us feel inferior without offering anything positive, then it has no value. Ask yourself, does this comparison help me improve, or is it just adding more pressure? If it brings no benefits, it's best to ignore it. Next, focus on your own journey. Everyone has their own path. Some people succeed early, some succeed later. Some find happiness in simplicity, while others need big achievements to feel satisfied. There's no one-size-fits-all path. When we focus on ourselves, we are no longer distracted by what others are doing. We just need to make sure we're moving in a direction that aligns with our own values and desires. Finally, learn to appreciate what you have. Instead of focusing on what you haven't achieved, look at what you already have. A person might not be the richest, but they might have a life worth dreaming about in their own way. When we are grateful for our own lives, we care less about what others are doing. Letting go of comparison pressure doesn't mean we stop striving. It means we strive in our own way, not to outdo someone else. When we stop comparing unnecessarily, we will have more energy to focus on our true goals. We will feel freer, more peaceful, and most importantly, happier. Part 3, Confidence from Within. A young man walks into a meeting room, preparing to present in front of his colleagues. His heart is racing, his hands slightly shaking. He worries about what others will think of him. He's afraid of making mistakes, of being judged, of not performing well enough. Meanwhile, another person enters the room with a completely different mindset. He is calm, not trying to outshine anyone, and not afraid of being judged. He focuses only on his presentation. The difference between the two isn't in their abilities, but in their confidence. Confidence isn't about proving to others that we are good. It's not about showing off, not about loud words or flashy appearances. True confidence comes from within, when we understand ourselves and are no longer controlled by external validation. A person lacking confidence is always trying to prove themselves, while someone who is truly confident doesn't need to do that. Why do so many people lack confidence? Partly, it's because they place their value in other people's judgments. If someone praises them, they feel better. If someone criticizes them, they immediately feel inadequate. When we let others determine our worth, we can never feel enough. We are always seeking approval, fearing comparison, fearing not meeting expectations. And when we are in that state of fear, confidence cannot exist. Another issue that leads to a lack of confidence is focusing too much on our weaknesses. We look at what we haven't done well, our past failures, our shortcomings, and think that because of these, we are not good enough. But the truth is, everyone has weaknesses. Successful people are not perfect. They are the ones who accept their flaws and still move forward. True confidence doesn't come from trying to eliminate our weaknesses or achieving perfection. It comes from understanding that we don't need to be perfect to have value. A person can make mistakes and still deserve respect. A person can fail and still have value. When we understand this, we are no longer controlled by fear. How can we confidence from within? Stop seeking validation from the outside. This doesn't mean we don't care about others. It means we don't let their opinions determine our worth. If someone likes us, that's great. If someone doesn't, fine too. Our value doesn't depend on them. Second, accept yourself instead of only focusing on what's imperfect. When we know that we still have value despite our flaws, we no longer fear judgment. True confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from being comfortable with ourselves. Third, focus on action instead of worrying about the outcome. People who lack confidence often get stuck in thoughts like, what will happen if I fail? What if I get laughed at? But when we focus on doing our best instead of fearing others' reactions, we will feel stronger. Finally, remember that confidence is a skill, not an innate trait. Anyone can develop it. The more we practice and experience, the stronger we become. When we truly understand and believe in our value, we will no longer need to prove anything to anyone. At that point, confidence won't be something we search for. It will become a natural part of who we are. Part 4. Learning to live for yourself. A woman stands in front of the mirror, choosing an outfit to wear to a party. She doesn't ask herself what she likes, but instead wonders, what will others think of this outfit? She worries about whether she'll be judged as too simple or too flashy. When she arrives at the party, instead of enjoying the atmosphere, she's preoccupied with whether people are paying attention to her. She smiles when she needs to, nods when she should, but doesn't feel truly comfortable. When she gets home, she feels tired, as if she had been playing a role all evening that wasn't truly her own. Many of us live like this every day. We make decisions not based on our true desires, but on the expectations of others. We choose jobs not because we love them, but because they make us appear successful. We spend time with people we don't really care for, simply out of fear of judgment. We try to be the version society wants to see, even though we don't feel comfortable inside. But is living this way really worth it? When we don't live for ourselves, we lose connection with who we are. We don't know what we really want, what we like, or what we need. We get so used to pleasing others that we forget the feeling of living authentically. But the paradox is, no matter how hard we try, we can never please everyone. There will always be someone who disagrees with our choices. There will always be someone who thinks we should do things differently. And if we keep chasing external expectations, we will never experience true peace. Living for yourself doesn't mean being selfish or ignoring others. It means having the courage to choose what's right for you, instead of simply doing what others expect. When making a decision, ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to, or just because I'm afraid of being judged? If the answer is for others, it may be time to reconsider. One of the reasons many people don't dare to live the way they want is the fear of being judged. We fear that if we go down a different path, we'll be criticized. But the truth is, no matter what we do, there will always be someone who is dissatisfied. That doesn't matter. What matters is whether we are living in alignment with our own values and desires. A person doesn't need everyone's approval to be happy. A person doesn't need the world's consent to walk their own path. Living for yourself also requires learning to say no. When we care too much about others' feelings, we tend to say yes even when we don't want to. We agree to attend unnecessary meetings, agree to help even when we're exhausted, agree to do things that don't really suit us. But every time we say yes to something we don't truly want, we say no to ourselves. If we don't set boundaries, we get caught in a life that others have decided for us. Finally, to live for yourself, you need to trust your own choices. No one knows you better than you do. No one can walk this path for you. If you keep waiting for others' approval, you'll always hesitate. If you keep worrying about being judged, you won't dare to take action. But when you truly believe in yourself, you no longer need external assurances. You may make mistakes, but those are your mistakes. You may change, but those are your decisions. And when you dare to live the way you want, that's when you will truly feel free. Part 5. True Freedom. One morning, a man sits on the balcony sipping a cup of coffee. He looks out at the street where the cars rush by. People are hurrying to work, making urgent calls with worried looks in their eyes. He recalls himself from a few years ago when he was also part of that hectic rhythm, always busy, always striving to achieve something, always afraid of falling behind. But today, he feels different. Not because he has more money or because he has achieved something special, simply because he has let go of the pressure to prove himself. True freedom isn't about having the most money, achieving the highest fame, or owning the most luxurious things. True freedom is when we are no longer bound by the need for external validation. It's when we can make decisions without worrying about what others think. It's when we can fail without feeling ashamed, succeed without boasting, and live slowly without fear of being left behind. Many people think that freedom comes from having everything, but if we need to have it all to feel free, then we are bound by those very things. A person may own much, but still feel trapped by the expectations of others. On the other hand, someone who has nothing to prove can feel completely free. Because they are no longer controlled by external judgment, they no longer live according to standards that aren't their own. To achieve this freedom, the first thing we need to do is let go of the fear of judgment. Everyone has opinions about us, but those opinions don't define our worth. The more a person tries to please everyone, the more they lose their freedom. When we understand that we can't control what others think, we will care less about it. When we no longer fear judgment, we can act in the most authentic way possible, choosing the path that aligns with who we truly are. True freedom also means accepting ourselves. When we no longer need to prove anything, we can live more lightly. We don't have to always appear strong. We don't need to always succeed. We don't need to always be right. When we accept ourselves with all our strengths and weaknesses, we no longer feel pressured to become someone else. Another important aspect is that we need to learn to enjoy the present. People who are stuck in the need to prove themselves often live for the future. They're always thinking about what they need to achieve next. But true freedom isn't found at some future milestone. It's found in the ability to enjoy life right now, in doing what we love without the pressure to do it for anyone other than ourselves. This freedom doesn't come from giving up or abandoning effort. On the contrary, when we are no longer burdened by the need to prove ourselves, we will work better, be more creative, and feel happier in what we do. When we are no longer controlled by the fear of judgment, we will have the courage to follow our own path. Conclusion. Don't try to prove yourself because you don't need to. You have value whether others recognize it or not. You don't need to live by anyone's standards except your own. When you stop trying to prove something, you will find everything becomes lighter. You'll see that true success isn't external recognition, but inner peace. You'll realize that happiness isn't in having more, but in knowing what you truly want and living true to that. Life is too short to worry about how others perceive you. Dare to live the way you want, do what you love, and pursue what truly matters to you. When you are no longer bound by the pressure to prove yourself, you will have gained the most important thing, freedom.